What's up, everybody? Listen, well, I don't know if I'm gonna keep this up, so I may not have to do the whole I'm recording. Okay, I'm not recording. I'm not gonna save this video. I'm just gonna be on here and talk for a little bit, eating some carrots and tomatoes and broccoli because, yeah, I need to cut back. And so, listen, if you are on this live and you are not dope, I'm usually very inclusive, but if you're not a dope person, you can get off, and if some people come on who are not dope, they can leave as well. Just listen, I think that I'm getting the oil change, so I'm sitting here waiting, and I think that too often we allow, and I ain't even trying to be deep, but let me just say it this way: life is too short for you not to be dope, for you not to believe it, for you not to walk like it, for you to allow the opinions of other people to determine how you feel. We don't have time for that. Life is too short for that. And one of the greatest indications, right, of your dopeness is for you to know that you are it without the acknowledgement of other people. You know what the next greatest indication is? Is when you believe it, even when people subtly or overtly try to deny the gifting, the value, the light, the energy, the vibes, the perspective that you bring. And so you have to, and I had this thought just a few moments ago, which is why I'm sharing it now. Because sometimes we allow the actions of other people to become we think that is a mirror of how we should treat ourselves. So we start treating ourselves based on how other people may treat or perceive us. And so then we walk around thinking that we are not good enough because somebody else didn't think we were good enough. And you have to be careful about that. I was in a therapy session, and as I was talking with the therapist, one of the things that I said is that I was in a setting where I started to feel the anxiety in my body. I was sitting at this table and there was a conversation happening, and I started to feel like, should I be here? Am I not good enough? Do I have something to bring? And I was telling the therapist, I literally began to feel that, and I had to check myself, because in the moment of sitting at that table and not feeling good enough, in that moment, I forgot about my accomplishments. I forgot about the reasons why I am proud of myself. I was allowing insecurity that I thought I had dealt with to come up in that moment. And now I'm finding myself fidgeting, not being comfortable in my words or in my actions. And I had to check that. Bro, why are you allowing, not why, what in this setting is triggering something in you that needs to be addressed? What's happening in this room? What sight, what smell, what has entered your senses that has reminded you of a season that you are no longer in, and that insecurity is still there, where you are causing this moment to make you forget how dope you are? Listen, I'm not talking about arrogance, but forget that, because this is the space where we're able to acknowledge and to admit and to declare that we are dope. And this is the other part. You are dope even though you're still on the journey to where it is that you're going. You are not waiting to arrive. You're not waiting to get to a certain point. You're not waiting to get to a certain tax bracket. You are on the journey to get to a certain place. But even at this moment on the journey, you are dope. People at the table may have more education, but they don't have your perspective. People at the table may have done amazing things, but they don't have your gifting and your anointing. You bring something to the room that is undeniable, that is unexplainable, and that other people do not have. And as long as we are walking around in insecurity, feeling not good enough, we will sit on our gifts. We will sit on the insight that we have. We will sit on the ability that we have to actually affect change. There are answers in you to the problems that people are having, but our own insecurity keeps us from opening up our mouths. And here is the dangerous thing. When you don't believe that you are dope enough to share, other people who may not even like you are still in bondage because you won't get free. I wasn't going to go here, but there's a Bible story. Bible says that Joseph started telling his brothers about his dream, and they were so intimidated and aggravated that this youngest boy is talking about how he's gonna rule and reign. They get so upset that they throw him in a pit. They were going to kill him, but then they decided to sell him into slavery. It's in the book of Genesis, story of Joseph. He goes through a lot of ups and downs. Long story short, years later, he is now in the position that he had dreamed of. The brothers who hated him for his dream are having a famine in the land. I'm skipping a whole lot in the story. And when they come to the kingdom in order to get food, long story short, the brother that they could not stand was in a position to help them to survive. The brother they hated was in a position to be able to give them food while they were starving. Here's my point. If Joseph had allowed the assessment of his brothers to determine his destiny, he would not be in a position to save them when they needed help. So you got to realize that there are some people who will intentionally try to dim your light. There are people who will intentionally try to put out, oh, you ain't nothing. Oh, just don't sit over there. You need to be quiet. There are people who will intentionally try to do that. And you've got to learn how to listen to your own, change your internal dialogue so that you know who you are despite what they say. Because chances are those may be the very people who need you when what you believe comes into reality. You gotta know how dope you are. You gotta know that sometimes you are so dope that you cannot be revealed prematurely. Sometimes you are so dope that you have to be rejected. Everybody loves an underdog story. We just don't like when we feel like we're the underdog. But if you had been accepted, you would not have gained the lessons you needed to grow. Y'all probably heard it before. A lot of times rejection is protection. If I would have been accepted by the wrong people, I would have become like them and denied my uniqueness. if I had got accepted or invited to all of the tables I wanted to be in, I would have found myself trying to acclimate to that place and would have denied my own gifting, my own assignment, my own uniqueness, my own perspective, my own dopeness. So one of the greatest indications of how dope you are is that you begin to understand your dopeness even when it is not celebrated. Here's the issue. If you were always celebrated, you would get so attached to the approval of other people that their approval would deter you from your assignment. This is why rejection is protection. And I'm glad there's a few people on here, but I put the title of this: if you're not dope, you can feel free to leave. But for all of those of us who know that even if we're not exactly where we want to be, that we are called, anointed, capable, that we bring energy, we bring perspective, we bring vibes. There is something in us that is undeniable. And sometimes we are rejected because people can't figure us out. So people reject what they cannot explain. And so when you understand your own value and worth, then you stop taking cues from the misunderstandings or misdiagnosis of other people, but you understand that maybe they just don't understand me. That don't mean I ain't dope. Maybe I'm not just what you need. Maybe God has blinded my value to you. Oh God, I ain't recording this, so I can share it with y'all. Because sometimes my ego was so aroused by somebody liking me that I connected myself to people I shouldn't have been connected to. Sometimes I was so eager for people to like me. Come on, I ignored all of the red flags because just the fact that you are interested, I'm down. And so rejection is protection, because sometimes what God will do is he will allow your value to be hidden to people who would not be able to handle it. And we're sitting here mad that they don't like us, heartbroken that they don't invite us, mad that they didn't let us come out. Oh, y'all was going out, you ain't tell me. You don't even like them. You would not have even had fun. You would have felt like you had to deny who you are. Okay, let's go here. We just out here now. Like, you mad that you didn't get invited to the birthday dinner, but she would have been mad because you would have outdressed her. Listen, you didn't even need that drama. And so when we are rejected, when we feel like we are not being affirmed, the enemy will try to use that to cause us to diminish our value because somebody else didn't see it. And so one of the greatest, and I said it before, but I'll say it again, one of the greatest indications of your value and your dopeness is that you know it. You realize it. You know the journey that you've been on. You know that you are not who you used to be. You know the value that you bring. Oh God. And this is a part of your frustration. You know that you are more valuable than what you have expressed. So that's a whole nother subject, because then that deals with our level of discipline. Are we doing everything that we could do with our gifts? Are we being diligent with all that God has called us to do? And so we are in this place of frustration because we know we're dope, but people don't know it. And sometimes we put more focus on trying to convince them than we do on actually working on our stuff. I don't know who I'm talking to. Maybe I'm talking to myself. But listen, when you do what you have been gifted to do, you are not going to have to run after affirmation. It's one of the things that I'm wrestling with. Help me to be so good at what I'm supposed to do that I'm sought after instead of having to promote. Let me be so diligent in embracing and walking in and developing my own unique dopeness that I don't have to waste time trying to explain myself to people. Because if you don't get it, that's okay. And I'm secure in how I'm made. Rejection is protection. You have to know that you are uniquely gifted and talented, that you are dope outside of the affirmations of other people. You got to know what you offer. You got to know what you bring to the table. And you have to know that you are dope even though you are on the journey. Having accomplished all that you want to accomplish, having done all that you want to do, not really feeling like you are at the place you want to be at. And let's be honest, time is aggravating some of us because you thought you would have been further than you are now. All of that can be true, but you still dope. And you have to know it. You have to know how to tell that to yourself. You cannot allow who you are to be predicated on if somebody else wants to tell you. You got to deal with your own internal dialogue. And you have to have, and let me go back to the story. Joseph knew that God had given him a dream, and he was so convinced about it that he told it to people who didn't understand. And their misunderstanding caused his own brothers to want to kill him. So people would say, well, maybe Joseph's problem was he talked too much. He shouldn't have said anything. And then he wouldn't have gone through that situation. But remember, rejection is protection. If he didn't say anything, they never would have got mad. They never would have sold him into slavery. And arguably, that would not have started the trajectory for what he saw in his dream to become a reality in his life. You got to know you so dope that you're not afraid of saying it, even when people don't understand it. It's almost time for the oil change. But last thing I'll say, what was it? You got to know you dope no matter who. And you got to be able to say it sometimes simply because you need to hear it. I could go on and on and on. I'm gonna stop, but this is the last thing I wanted to say. And the idea of humility has been hijacked. I think that sometimes we have used humility, used the idea, the word, the concept of humility in order to shut people up who we think are talking too much. God convicted me one time because, people would be doing too much. I'm like, yeah, they doing the most. And God convicted me and he said, there are people who, you would consider doing the most, but are you upset that they are willing to do what you won't do? Is it that they're doing the most? Or is it that they are willing and have the audacity to do something, and you may not particularly secretly like it, but you're a little jealous of the audacity. And so first I was like, "Nah, why you trying to get me to death like that?" But I think it does say something to how we have weaponized the idea of humility, and so then even in the church, and so then we're battling with this identity crisis, because on the one hand, God's going to use us mightily, but on the other hand, we need to sit down and not be seen. You got to know that you are unique, you are gifted, you are talented, you are anointed, you bring something, and sometimes all that is perspective. You have to know how dope you are before you waste your time trying to convince that to anybody else. So thank you for letting me get this little rant out. Hope that you are having a great day. I was going to delete this, but maybe I'll leave it in, although I was eating and stuff at the beginning. But what have you. Know you do. Know that you're dope. And if you're not dope, don't worry about anything I said. Keep strolling. Have an amazing day. Talk to you later. Bye.